Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin, and this is Sydney's second custom video. If you haven't seen part one, link in the description, check it out. We looked at his two-piece collection of Omega watches. And in this video, we're going to talk about what he wants to add next. And I'll tell you right now, it's a Rolex watch. All right, so let's get back to his email. I have been wanting to add one more high-end watch to my collection, and it seems like this is the perfect time to add my first Rolex. It is clear that my tastes and preferences are quite in line with yours, as I prefer understated watches with a tool-like appearance and functionality, where excellent performance and quality are at the center without any additional glitz or glamour. All right, so right off the bat, he's looking for steel professional, not a two-tone watch, not a precious metal watch. And he mentions functionality, all right, and that makes sense because he's used to Speedmasters with the chronograph, and his triple date is just filled with functions. So he's probably going to want a highly functional watch. So of course a GMT or an Explorer 2 would be great, but he needs a water-going watch because he has Speedmasters. They don't really handle water so well. So in his first video I mentioned, probably a water-going Rolex. So a Submariner or a Deep Sea or a James Cameron. And, he mentions functionality, so I probably wouldn't go with a no-date sub, but let's see what he has to say. Since I've been longing for a watch with a rotating bezel, the Submariner is definitely the best way to go. But then the question becomes, which one? It is important to me to have the latest advancements, but at what cost, both figuratively and literally? For this reason, I had been considering ceramic, although I had never seen one in person. However, I just visited the local authorized dealer, and much to my surprise, they had a brand new 41mm sub in the shop, but he notes it was already spoken for, but they showed it to him. They told me that the buyer had given them permission to show the watch, so I took them up on the kind gesture. I spent some time with the watch, tried it on, and I honestly did not feel like this would be the version for me. Okay, on a little bit of a tangent. That's crazy. I mean, they actually ask the person whose watch this was, can we just show this to other people? I don't know that I'm buying that, all right? If somebody asked me, an authorized dealer who had my watch, asked me, I'd say, hell no, you're not going to show that to other people. I don't want people with their grubby mitts on my watch. Put that in the safe, all right? I've heard that sometimes they'll show watches and they'll say that, and they're sort of vetting the customer as they're showing the watch. And so, if you say something stupid like, how much could I get for this on the gray market if I sold it? Or, is it going to retain its value? Or, those kind of questions that are like, okay, this person doesn't look like they're really interested in this particular watch. Well, they're not going to obviously sell it to that person. But I've heard of situations where they're selling the watch and they're kind of vetting the person, I guess, and the person says all the right things and looks like a genuine customer that really just wants to add this watch, and they'll kind of disappear to the back and come back and say, sir, it's your lucky day. I checked with management and we can sell you this watch. And so that might have been what was going on. They might have been vetting him, but it doesn't really matter because the watch really wasn't for him. All right, he didn't like it so much. He says the bezel is too shiny, and the case still seems quite large even with the slimmer lugs. The glide lock bracelet, anti-magnetism, and new movement are big pluses, but the high-end luxury aesthetic just doesn't fit with my idea of an actual tool watch, which is what I am looking for and was Rolex's original intent of the Submariner. And, Sydney, I agree. I mean, I love the aesthetic of the pre-ceramic watches, and the modern watches really are high-end luxury homages to their tool watch past. Fully functional and capable, but just people aren't using them in the same way, and they have gotten a bit blingy and disproportionate in certain ways, and I know that's debatable, but I see what you're going for there. And look, I think there, as I've said in other videos, merits to both pre-ceramic and ceramic watches, and ideally, I think you probably want both in a collection. But if you're looking for your one Rolex, your first Rolex, aesthetics is so important. And being a tool watch guy, it makes sense that Sydney would gravitate towards that. It became clear at that point that I too am a pre-ceramic fan. The 16610 is the first that comes to mind without knowing the ins and outs of the serial numbers. There's also the 14060M and also the 14060. I'd prefer a no-holes case and solid end-link since I do not plan on changing the bracelet, although that's not a deal breaker. Here are some more specific questions I have for you, and we're going to get into the questions later. A lot of interesting questions, but let's just really focus on this choice he's made, and I think it's a great choice. It's the last of the pre-ceramic date sub, and again, I would go with the date sub over the no date sub because you're used to having highly functional watches with your triple date, so the date sub is a great option. Of course, if you want to go with a date dive watch, there's the 16600 pre-ceramic sea dweller. If you're not crazy about the Cyclops, all right, it has the date and it has that vintage dive watch look. Proportions are a little bit different. It's a little bit thicker, and it's got the helium escape valve, which you'll probably never use, but that could be kind of a cool thing to have. And of course, the sea dweller goes deeper. You're probably not going to use it to that extent either, but you know, something tells me that maybe you could stretch out service intervals a little longer because that is more resistant to water than just a regular sub. And a lot of people say, well, you know, really is all about the seals. And so I don't know if that's the case, but it just, put it this way, if I were going to wear a watch swimming for the next 15 years without a service, I'd probably want to do so with a sea dweller, all right? So a slightly different aesthetic and one worth thinking about. And some would say it's kind of cool and different and a little bit, you know, not as typical as a date sub. So keep that in mind if you're not crazy about the Cyclops. But let's talk about the 16610. And he wants no holes case, solid and link bracelet. And in that case, he's going to want a 2003 or later, okay? And that would be an F serial or later. And so when you're doing your shopping, if you're looking to buy from Japan, Sydney, then oftentimes they'll have you know, the serial letter for you, so you can date the watch. And so you're going to be looking for an F, a D, a Z, an M, or a V. Okay, and the last version was the V, and then they ended that watch in 2008. Okay, and that's going to have no holes case, solid in-link bracelet. Okay, and some things to note: the last iteration, the M's and the V's. All right, starting in I would say 2007 and then 2008. Okay, had the engraved rehaut, and it gives it a different aesthetic. Is it going to make it more collectible? Yeah, that's for you guys to decide. I mean, if you ask Chris over at It's Complicated, he'll certainly probably tell you it will be. He's biased, though. He has one. All right, he's got one with the engraved rehaut, and pleased as punch about it if you watch his channel, as he should be. But personally, I would go for what aesthetic you like more, okay? Because I would rather have an unpolished box and papers F, right, which they made for 3 years from 2003 to 2006, than the later version if it's, say, polished, okay? So I would go for condition and what you like. I wouldn't try to sort of think about, okay, what's gonna make me more money in the future, okay? Aesthetics, all right? Think in terms of aesthetics. And if you like the more to-watch look, I think the lack of the engraved rehaut might be what you want. Just something to keep in mind. All right, so also you indicate that a holes case might be okay, and if that's what you're looking for, then you can find that with the solid in-link bracelet. And they started using the solid in-link bracelet during the A serial, so towards the latter part of 1999. And so a holes case with a solid in-link bracelet would be a later A, or a P, or a K, or a Y. And it was actually during the Y serials, the later Ys, that they stopped drilling the lug holes all the way through. And so that was really the start of the no holes cases, the Y serials. Okay, so in late 2002, if you really want to be strict about it. But there you go. And I'm going to put a link in the description to how you can look at a watch and tell from the front if it's a solid and link bracelet or a hollow and link bracelet, because they might not have a shot of the back, all right? But as long as you're getting a no holes case, it's going to have the solid and link bracelet. So there you go, all right? Just, I would decide whether you want the engraved rehaut or not, okay? And which aesthetic you like more. And there you go, all right? And we're going to get to his questions in the next video. And if you guys have any advice for Sydney in the meantime, drop a comment in the comment section. And you guys see that like button right there? Just push it, right? Just push that. Helps me out a lot. So just don't be lazy. Just push that for me. And I love you for it. Thanks for watching. Take care. And I'll see you next time.